One of the testimonials that we had gotten was about an advisor who doesn't hear incredibly well.
Mm.
And when you learn how to listen and you practice engaged listening, which is something I've been teaching for a long time, there are lean in moments. And you know this because you do this for a living and you're listening to me right now. There are lean in moments. Well, he didn't lean in at the right time, and his client's spouse got quiet because she was talking about a health issue. He didn't actually hear it because she got really, really quiet, but Zocks did. So when he got the transcript, there was this whole section about like alert, 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 because she was experiencing major health issues. He didn't even hear it, dude.
Interesting.
And now all of the sudden, he has all of this much needed information that he would have flippin' missed, man. Right? When I say it helps you become a better human, or AI can make you more human, especially when it comes to client meetings, those are the sorts of things that it is going to pick up and detect things that you're not. Because again, it doesn't have all of the distractions and all of the stupid stuff.
Hey there, it's Mike Blackford. Welcome to another episode of the Modern Financial Advisor Podcast. On this episode of the show, Matt Halloran, Chief Evangelist of Zocks, is with me for a wide-ranging conversation built on two very important concepts. First, going with the flow or riding the wind at your back. Basically, that kind of don't fight inertia concept, let it carry you forward. And secondly, embracing AI as a superpower. Now, I know you've been hearing about the power of AI recently. It's everywhere. You can't escape it. And frankly, some of it is hype and some of it is fear-mongering. But the reality is, as you'll hear Matt share, AI tools like Zocks, for instance, are empowering advisors to move faster, win new business at a higher rate, and serve clients better than ever before. You're absolutely going to love this episode. Matt is awesome. As many of you know, you're in for an absolute treat. Now, before we get to the conversation with Matt, please do make sure you take a moment to subscribe to the Modern Financial Advisor podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Amazon, the YouTubes, or wherever you like to get your podcast jam on. And if you have a question or a suggestion for a guest or a topic for the show, hit me up. I'm basically at Mike Langford everywhere on the internet, or you can shoot us an email, podcast@finzermarketing.com. Okay, let's jump into the conversation with Matt Halloran. Well, Matt Halloran, it is so wonderful to see you finally on the Modern Financial Advisor podcast. Welcome to the show, dude.
I am so honored to be here, brother. I've been following your career forever, and I'm just super happy to be on the show.
This is really cool. We did, I think, one podcast a long time ago, and it's really funny when you think about journeys like through life. Before we clicked record, we were talking about video gaming and stuff like that, and how like tech, so, especially old guys video gaming, like getting used to new technologies and so forth. And it's really funny I'm not sure if you've seen this before, but you see yourself doing something, or you remember the tech you had when you first started doing something. So, my first podcast, way back in 2007, was on one of those blue snowballs.
Yeah.
And I still have it because I can't get rid of it. It's like a museum piece, but it's like the plastic is like yellowed. It's great.
Yeah, I had a Shure SM58 was the first microphone I ever used for a podcast on Skype, by the way.
Oh yeah, but back in Skype, before we were doing podcasts and videos, right? We were recording via whatever solution you could do. But amazing stuff. I'm so thrilled. So for those in the audience who don't know Matt, he's been podcasting for, I think, just about as long as I have, putting out really high quality content there. And so I think we're both kind of, we've been in this space where we've been evangelizing this concept of like, hey, everybody should be out there spreading the good word, letting their audience know what's important for their space. So good stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think this is an amazing medium, considering that financial services professionals literally talk for a living. It doesn't get much better than this.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I always tell people, like, listen, the fact that you have the ability to let people hear from you and see you on a regular basis, kind of awesome. Like if your grandparents had this, they would have used something like this. So anyway, let's dive into the show. So I thought a great way to kick off our conversation today would be with the story you told me during our prep call. You recalled how you were in the Navy,
Mhm.
and you were one of the few guys, you said, who didn't get seasick
Yeah.
when the ship was in rough seas, which I think is pretty wild. And I'm sure many people will be like, I don't know how you do that, because I think everybody, when they get really choppy seas,
Mm.
I've never been out to sea like in the Navy, so I don't know what it's like to be out there in super rough seas. I've been out on, sailboats and so forth, and it's
Mhm.
been a little, but that's more like fun. It's like going on a roller coaster. I'm sure
Yeah.
it gets to you after a few days. But
Yeah.
at one point in the story, you had a bit of a fun discovery you shared
Mhm.
about like, which led to a pretty significant observation about how to approach life. So I'd love to, I wonder if you could just share that story, because I think that
Sure.
kind of opens up a lot of the things we're going to be talking about today.
Well, so I'm going to give you an insider sailor secret. All right.
Okay.
So when I got on my ship, I was a deckhand. I literally was swabbing decks, and that still
Yeah.
exists in the Navy today. And the chief boatswain's mate, which is like the chief deck aide, came up to me and he said, "Look, here's the deal. If you don't want to get seasick, take a little bit of chewing tobacco, not like a normal bit of chewing tobacco, a little bit of chewing tobacco, and put it in your lip, but don't spit it, swallow it." And I'm like, "I'm going to
Hmm.
vomit everywhere." He's like, "Nope. Then you're putting too much in." So we were going out to sea back where we doing just going across the Atlantic the first time I did it. And I noticed that a lot of my shipmates were like puking over the side of the ship. And I did that. And I was like, oh, okay, because the nicotine actually
Hmm.
calms your stomach, right? And so here's what happened. We were going to Scotland at a place that is not on a map to drop off a bunch of ammunition. And we hit what is referred to as a nor'eastern, which if you ever seen like The Deadliest Catch and any of those
Yeah.
shows, they're like 20, 25-foot swells, which
Yeah.
means that the boat would go up and then slam down 20 feet, right? And so since I was one of the only people who didn't get sick, I had to stand a bunch of watches. So there was kind of a mixed bag, brother. Like I probably should have just vomited a couple of times. I wouldn't have been working so hard. But so I'm in this big orange, what they call this CBD suit. This is huge, like floaty suit that if I fell overboard, they'd never find me because of the seas. But then you had to latch yourself into a tow line, basically,
Mm.
this line that ran to the forward part of the ship. And as I would go to the forward part of the ship, it was like I was leaning forward like this, for those of you who are listening, like at like a 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
And I'm just trudging all the way to the front of the ship. And I'm just getting just bombarded by the wind and the waves and just getting soaked from head to toe. And then I would go up and do my job. And my job at the time was security. So I was making sure everything was fine. And then I had this little thing called a plumb bob that I would roll down and make sure that the ballast tanks were good. Because on a ship, if the ballast tanks are good, the ship can fall over. So it's a very important job. But then here's the deal. When I would come back and latch myself back into the line, the wind was at my back. And so I could like jump up in the air and I just float in the air, and then I would land sometimes harder than I wanted to. But the wind was always at my back and I could just zip down to the other end of the ship and do my job really fast. And that really did become a metaphor for my entire life, which is I trust in the wind. Now, I was latched into a line, right? So I believe that you still need to have some direction on where you want to
Right.
go. But a lot of times the wind is blowing you in a direction and you should really trust in the wind, because if you don't, then you get really, really tired and you don't go very far.
It's a really good point. And when you shared that, the first time I was like, that's 100%. Like you start discovering things. I mean, I always jokingly say, very few people have a career where it's just like up and to the right. Like there's no,
Yeah.
bumps in the road along the way, right? But if you look back throughout your career and your life, like those times where you're saying when you're leaning into it and
Mhm.
letting kind of the current that flows naturally with you,
Yeah.
whether that's wind current or whatever, what analogy you want to use, uh, it just helps, right? And so instead of kind of fighting it, and it's really interesting because we started the conversation talking about the power of this platform, right?
Mhm.
And how advisors talk to people for a living. And it's like same thing here, like making sure that if you are a natural conversational person, finding ways to communicate more, really really good stuff, and that kind of leads into why you're here today. We're, so you've recently made a big change, right? So
Yep.
many of the people in the audience know who you are, right? I think they recognize you as the guy who's been on their stream on LinkedIn and other places, been on stage, out there evangelizing the concept that financial advisors
Mhm.
really need to be expanding their influence,
Mhm.
right? Leaning into their wind or letting the wind be at their back and just kind of carry it a little further. So you're the co-founder of a company
Mhm.
called ProudMouth.
Yep.
And frankly, I think you've been one of the most influential figures in our space over the past half decade or so. I mean, you're everywhere, kind of ubiquitous. Uh, I don't want to make you feel like, your head get too big on camera here, but I think everybody loves you. Like everybody who talks about
I
about Matt is
appreciate
like, oh,
that,
I love
man.
Matt. He's a great dude, right?
Yeah.
So, but recently, you've
Mhm.
embarked on a brand new adventure as the
Mhm.
chief evangelist of Zocks.
Mhm.
So I wonder if you wouldn't mind sharing. I guess this might be a long-winded one, so or we can edit if we need
Mhm.
to. But like, talk a little bit about that journey of
Sure.
building ProudMouth, and then how you're hoping to leverage that and kind of
Mhm.
continue to let the wind be at your backs as you in your new role here at Zocks.
Yeah. So Kirk and I started ProudMouth really for one major reason, which was to scale financial services thought leadership, right? To make it so that every time you say something once, you could actually just have it basically on record. And I used to say all the time, like, yeah, how many times have you had the Roth conversion?
Mhm.
Conversation a million times. Well,
Yeah.
let's record that. And then when somebody has a question about a Roth conversion, they can go ahead and access that longer, deeper dive into it. You can just say, hey, look, I'm going to give you some cursory information now, but I'd like you to listen to the podcast. But really, the grand scheme of it was human connection. And I actually wrote my first article in financial services in 2007 about for Horse's Mouth about the human connection and the need that financial advisors have to get their personality out into the world in a way that people can like, know, and trust you before they ever come into the office to either meet
Mhm.
with you or to do business with you. And Kirk and I were very, very, very successful. Largest podcasting company, literally in North America. We did over 10, well, they're still doing them, 10,000 episodes when I left. 10,000 episodes. And so one of the things that Kirk and I sat down and we were in Canada because it's a Canadian company and I'm in Michigan. And so him and I were sitting at this bar and I was trying a whole bunch of weird Canadian stuff like poutine, which I still can't deal with poutine, man, but
Love
whatever.
poutine. It's good
And
stuff.
I know, see some people, right? And so we're sitting there and I'm, shoving fries into my face. And we started talking about influence, right? And I said, here's the deal. I want to become very influential in financial services. And Kirk didn't really want to go that route as much. That wasn't he's a more behind the scenes guy, right? That's why our partnership worked so freaking well for so long. And so everything that we offered to clients, we tried on me. And some of them, dude, they failed so badly, like flaming wreckage. But that was fine. It was me. It's right, whatever. So we came up with these 9 podcast growth tactics, which ended up becoming the rocket boosters of influence, and we created this thing called the influence assessment. And so we did all of this great stuff, but everything was tested on me. And then because of some unfortunate personal life events, I had to step away. So when you run a business, and everybody listening to this will know this, it's 24/7, and I needed to be able to turn it off, which I was incapable of doing as a business owner. And so the wind blew me in the direction of Zocks. And when I was applying at Zocks and I was going through the interview process, Michael Murphy, who's now my boss, which by the way, having a boss after, I don't know, 20 years, 15 years, this is really crazy, dude, but that's all right.
Yeah.
He's super cool. And he said, well, tell me what you want to do. And I said, well, I want to take all the principles of influence that Kirk and I built for ProudMouth, and I want to show you that it works. He's like, well, it already does work. I was voted by Indigo Marketing the 10th most influential person in financial services last year. And he's like, it's already working. I was like, yeah, but see, the difference is now I'm helping a company grow, not just my company, because everybody's like, of course, Matt, you're going to talk about ProudMouth. You own the damn company. I don't own Zocks, right? But the principles of influence are here. Right. And so I am here just to do that, to make more people understand the power of this platform that has been built. Man, dude, the people that work here,
Yeah.
like I made the decision before I had any idea really how good the product was because the people were so freaking cool. And they're allowing me to do what I am built to do. I am built to shake hands, kiss babies, be nice to people, be kind to people, and tell people, about how they can make their lives better and make a deeper connection. Because here's the deal, and I'll stop talking. is this. I believe that AI can actually make you more human. I firmly 100% believe that. And after seeing all of the demos, I've been training every single solitary week with Jim Hardman, who's like our chief product officer. He's teaching me stuff about this platform. And every time I walk away, that is my first thought. I'm like, holy crap. All of that crap that advisors get stuck doing, which makes it so they're not providing great advice or doing the research or providing the service that they need to, AI is going to be able to make it so you can.
That is a really interesting point. And I think you just hit on the cold teaser for the episode, right? AI can make you more. I really do believe it too. If you think about how much effort and energy you put into all the different tasks that you do for your job, it doesn't matter what your job is, financial advisor, school principal, whatever, podcast production host, whatever. There's a lot of other work that happens, right? Before you hit the stage, if you will, right? Before you get to do the good stuff about the job. And so freeing yourself up from that can really have a huge impact. And it's funny, like I love the way you related it, because you teed up something in the prep call related to that. You said, that Zocks is helping to free advisors from the tyranny of the minutia. And I felt that heavy duty, man. Like, this is like, there is like a tyranny of like all the little crap I have to do.
Dude, so Michael Kitces, who is somebody who I'm just so grateful for all of his thought. Talk about unbelievably influential, unbelievably giving, constantly giving away stuff for free. The guy's amazing. He just came out recently with a new report that said financial advisors only spend 20% of their time with clients. 20%, dude. That's a travesty, bro. I mean, that's like, what the hell? I mean, now I know I run my own businesses, right? I mean, I understand you're the cook, the cleaner, the bottle washer, the waiter, everything. You're everything. And I get that. And most of your audiences too, right? I mean, they're a one-arm paper hanger that's just doing everything they possibly can. But when you can automate it to something, and I'm going to quantify this in two ways just so that your audience understands. Zocks has been in 2 million meetings. I did the numbers with Jim last week. 2 million. So can you imagine the machine learning that has happened out of 2 million meetings? So there's number one. Number two, we've been able to quantify through feedback and through good conversations that advisors are able to reduce their time doing minutia 10 hours a week, dude. 10 hours. That's a whole week's worth of work that you're saving every month by outsourcing it to something that's done 2 million flipping meetings, dude. And so you look at that, and I'm a very trusting person, but I always verify. And so when you're looking at something like Zocks as a solution for you, just keep those two numbers in mind.
Yeah. I want to unpack two things on that, right? That I think will really help those in the audience understand that a little deeper, or have it get into their souls a little deeper, if you want to call it that. One is, so Zocks is, as I mentioned in the intro, and we'll go into deeper exactly how things work. It's a note taking, right? It's taking notes of your meetings live when they happen. Right. So instead of you as an advisor having to write everything down longhand or whatever, you've got this app doing it, right? You got a solution doing it for you. It's the equivalent of back in the old days when you had every executive in America had a secretary, and she knew shorthand and was basically transcribing the entire meeting, right? So she had all that stuff, and it was usually a she. I just use that as that was the most likely scenario back in the old days. Right. So, okay. So you've got effectively that person, even now this person's virtual in the room. The other thing that you said that I think is way bigger than maybe you even meant it to be, and maybe we can unpack this a little bit more.
All right.
Is the 2 million meetings part.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
One of the things that leveraging technology does for a professional or any business, especially if you didn't do the roll your own approach. Like a lot of people are like, well, we built our own XYZ tool to do this.
Yep.
Is Zocks has been in 2 million meetings. Most companies, most individual advisors don't have 2 million meetings, right? They have, maybe 10 a week, right?
Mhm.
And then they, like you said, 20% of their time is spent on client work.
Yeah.
The rest of it is spent on doing all the other stuff. So over the course of a year, they might have, a couple hundred meetings,
Yep.
right? And so if you were just relying on your own ability to learn what's the
Mhm.
best technique for taking notes, what is the most important thing to remember, or how do you quantify action items, or all that other type of stuff.
Mhm.
The fact that you have one technology that's doing this across thousands and thousands of others is really impressive.
I when so when I was talking to Jim, so I'm a marketer, right? I'm
Yeah.
talking to Jim, and he's showing me these numbers because I had
Yeah.
asked him a question, because you had asked me a question about the difference between the large language model of something like GPT and then
Yeah.
using a piece of software, which is what Zocks is.
Yeah.
And so and I messaged him right when we were on the pre-record call, and I'm like, okay, Jim, I have this question. He's like, this is not a quick answer, dude. So we had a 40-minute conversation about how I am to explain this. So we might get to that in a minute. But then I started asking more about the machine learning, and then that's when he brought up the spreadsheet. And it was this spreadsheet with all of the numbers. Like, here's the other thing that's crazy. People who use the software, okay, who bought the software, that, let me clarify, who bought the software, 95% of them use it every day.
Hmm.
Who's got a 95% adoption rate, bro? But
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
so let's talk about the machine learning aspect of this. So you've got, so financial advisors always hang their hat on the thing. I'm so unique and I'm so different. Well, I don't mean to be mean, but I've coached over 1,000 offices. You're not that unique. You're not that different. You as a human are, but what you do for a living is not fundamentally unique and different. But the cool thing about 2 million as your sample size, you get the nuances, dude. You really get the
Yeah.
nuances.
That's true. It's amazing. That 95%
I
adoption
know,
rate
dude.
and
What the hell?
continue using. Well, because we're all guilty of this. We all buy a new piece of
Oh,
technology, whether it's software or a widget or whatever,
yeah.
piece of actual physical technology. We're like, this is gonna be awesome. This
Yeah.
is gonna do so much for me. You use it a couple of times,
Yep.
or you just never fully get through the learning curve. You're just like, I started tinkering with it. It was a little harder than I thought it was going to be to get used using this. And then so you just, well, I'll get to it later, and you just never really get to it. It just
Yeah.
sits there. And that's a problem for a lot of companies, and a lot of tech companies selling into organizations. That's a real issue. Like, how do I not only get you to buy it, but continue using it? Because when it comes to
Mhm.
resubscribing, renewing your engagement, it all depends upon whether I'm
That's right.
using this thing or not, right?
That's right.
And we all understand that in our personal lives, right? If there's a streamer that you don't watch any shows on anymore, guess what? You don't continue to subscribe to that streamer. It's
Yep.
gone, right? Sorry. That's really fascinating. So
Yeah.
let's get to some of the use cases for
Oh, yeah.
this type of thing. Because, advisors have to take notes. They get it, right? Okay, I got to kind of like document what happened in this conversation. It's the reason why, phone calls are recorded, the reason why emails are archived. And then when you're having an in-person human meeting, you're taking some notes, right? So
Mhm.
it's fine. Uh, one of the use cases, and then we can go crazy on some of the other ones, and this, by the way, this is one of the reasons why I love doing this type of stuff, talking to people like yourself, is I learn a lot, and I'm like, oh shoot, I need to be doing some of the stuff that I've learned just in my life.
Don't hold that
So,
against me, dude. Don't hold that against
no. So it's true. It's like, it's great when you learn something like, oh, no way, I never thought of that. So you mentioned that a simple, clear, detailed follow-up email after meetings, especially with prospects, can be a powerful game changer. And I think everybody does. Well, not everybody. It's probably not true. But I know myself, like when I meet with a prospect or whatever,
Mhm.
I'll send a follow-up meeting. Nice to chat with you today. Looking forward to working with you. If it was a scenario where it's like, here's a proposal or whatever,
Mhm.
that went out there. But one thing I haven't done, and you talked about this, is like kind of including some of the core components of the meeting. So why don't you dive in there? Like, what are some of
Yeah.
that? Unpack that a bit.
Yeah. So I did sales for ProudMouth. That was my primary job, right?
Yeah.
Content creation, obviously, you're part of the executive leadership and vision. But my job was really to do sales every day, all day. And that was where I fell down all the time, because I would go from one meeting to another meeting to another meeting. And then all of a sudden I'm trying to go back to the first meeting. I'm like, crap, who is that guy? And not to sound dorky, but generally old white guys, right, that we're talking to in financial services, because that's like what 85% of the industry, and a lot of them are saying the same thing. So it's really, really hard for me to differentiate between who I was talking to. Can you imagine? So here's the deal. Can you imagine if you got done with the meeting and minutes later you have a usable email that distills and summarizes the meeting with the next steps that's ready for you to review and send out? And in fact, I just posted this today on LinkedIn. But I got a testimonial. So here's the other cool thing. I'm going to digress just for a moment, and then I promise I'll go back. But the amount of people who are reaching out to me because I'm in my new position, who are saying things like, Matt, I just closed this huge prospect because of that email you just talked about. I'm like, what? And he elaborated. He said, look, here's the deal. I was up against 3 other advisors, but because of my email was so succinct and showed I was listening, hence my Shut the F Up book. And, I wrote a book on listening, and I think it's wildly important.
Yeah.
He said it showed I was listening to the point where I won the business. Now, you also said something that I need to go back to, because there's a big compliance thing. So when I was at ProudMouth, I was the one who interfaced with all of the large corporations that we got corporate deals with. And I always met with the compliance people. When I was interviewing here, one of the big differentiators is our competition actually physically records the meetings. So they're actual physical recordings, Mike. So think about this. Let's just do the numbers. 2 million physical recordings of an hour-long meeting. That's 2 million hours worth of meetings that have to be archived for up to 6 years. Okay, just think about. Okay. My son's in cybersecurity, dude. The probability for failure there and compromise is very, very high. So what Zocks ends up doing is there is no physical recording. It is real-time transcription. That meeting's done. The only thing that you have is the actual transcription. You don't have the voices. You don't have any of that sort of stuff. And I love that. See, this is that next level of technology. This is the forethought that these crazy people who decided to go ahead and figure this AI thing out with the 50 people we have who are programmers, who are programming stuff for Zocks, came up with. So anyway, getting back full circle here. Sorry, it was a little bit of a tirade there. You can edit that out if you want to.
No, I like it. I'm gonna tack onto it in a minute. Yeah, go.
But the idea of being able to have something as simple as being able to be fully present during a meeting because you're having a good transcription, and then secondly, having a formatted based off 2 million flipping meetings, a follow-up email that's going to help you close more business. Dude, this is pretty freaking amazing.
It is. And both of those things actually do something that is really important, right? And I always say that the purpose of an advisor in a client's life is the sleep at night factor. And that sounds quaint, right? But like, look, people can go out and Google like how to create a financial plan. People can go out and do some DIY stuff. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why they're working with you, and they want to feel confident and comfortable with their financial future, right? And their financial today, right? So they're looking for comfort and confidence. So what does that email you described do? Oh, I now feel more comfortable and confident with Matt, who I just talked to, who sent me a summary of my conversation. And some of the key points that were important to me. He remembered what was important to me, all that type of stuff. Yeah, it's huge. But getting to the recording versus not recording thing, I love that you hit on the compliance thing. But the thing that was in my mind, and I've really thought about this a lot, is comfort level with the interaction of the technology that's there, because most advisors today are somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 years old.
Oh yeah,
right. Many of those folks, some of this technology is new to them. And guess what? The average age of a client who's working with a 60-year-old advisor is just draw a 5-year circle around that, right? So 55 to 65 is probably the average age of their client base as well. So if I had let's just say 65-year-old client come into my office and sit down and go, oh, hold on, let me click record. They might be like, whoa. We're recording this? Like we're sitting here and recording what's going on? Like they understand if they call you on a recorded line, they get that type of stuff. That's been baked in for 20 plus years. But that would be new, right? And that would be an uncomfortable experience. So the
Yeah.
fact that you're not recording is actually a huge deal.
Well, we already, and we help our clients with this, but being able to sit down with somebody and say, okay, look, right now this meeting is being transcribed by my
Mm.
virtual assistant, right? It's no different, Mike, than if I had my junior advisor sitting
Yep.
here as a human. Actually, it's better than that because my AI never gets sick, it never gets distracted, and it's based off of all of the meetings that I've ever had.
Right.
And so if you
Oh,
think
good point.
about
Yeah.
that, the difference is you have some person sitting here like a junior advisor, all suited up with, their expensive pen, and they're trying to look, officially, right? We don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah.
It's all done through an interface, right? That's very, very user friendly, and it is in real time. And I believe that it's a much larger thing to overcome to say, hey, by the way, I have to keep this recording for 6 years.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, I'm afraid of, okay. Think about what you did 6 years ago, brother. Like, let's talk about, you and I were joking about this before. When we first started, we sucked. Like, when we were podcasting, we were not good. We had crappy equipment. Think about that. That's what has to be archived for up to 6 years. That's just insane to me.
Well, and think about all the uncomfortable things that you talk about with an advisor, right?
Yeah.
All the things you're nervous about, the things that are happening in your life that you might not want on the record, if you want to call it that. And it could be, marital issues. It could be health issues. It could be any number of things like you're worried about your company getting sued. All these things you're almost, for a lot of people treat their financial advisor very similar to a doctor, right? Or a psychologist, right? They are talking through some emotional and challenging issues. Having that recorded and floating out there is a big deal. But also, you mentioned the parallel of like, well, imagine if I had a junior advisor in here taking notes. One of the challenges with the junior advisor is that can interfere with the connectivity between client and advisor. Like, Matt, I've known you for 20 years. We've been working here for 20 years. You just brought Bob in. Hi, Bob. Nice to meet you.
Who's that guy?
You're like a 23-year-old kid, just graduated or whatever. Hey, listen, Matt and I like to talk about things. You know what I mean? Like, he and my, we've known each other. He knows all where the cobwebs are, all that, whatever you want to call it. The skeletons are in the closet, not the cobwebs. So I think that's really important, right? To have if technology can take over that and facilitate that, it actually allows the realness to flow.
I think that there's a substantial amount of anonymity there that's wildly important. But so when I don't know if you know this, but I was a therapist before I got into financial services, and ended up I wasn't very good at it, which really sucks because I was $70,000 in student loan debt. I just got my master's degree as a therapist. I did it for about a year. But when I got into financial services and started consulting, and I was coaching on the human connection, right? So my job at Peak, which is what it was called, and it's called Carson Consulting now, was I took everybody through Ron's blueprinting process. His name is Omani now, but it used to be Ron's blueprinting process. And so my whole job was life coaching because I also have my master's degree as a life coach. And I remember sitting there and hearing these stories from advisors, Mike, and just thinking to myself, these guys, people give them their life savings, right? This is really, really personal. This is really important. And so I have dedicated the last 20 years, my 20th year in financial services, 20 years of my life in trying to help financial advisors make that deeper connection. And when you can know that you can be fully present in a meeting, shut the F up and listen, and truly just make that real human connection, I think that every advisor who is leaning into technology not only is going to be able to become more human, but they're going to have their lives changed with a software like Zocks, one meeting at a time. Because every meeting, it's going to learn you more, it's going to learn better, it's going to be able to go ahead and provide you with even better stuff. And so, and with a 95% adoption rate and usage rate, people are using it and really feeling it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't think about that, but like, one of the side benefits, the positive side effects, that you'd see on the commercials, those are all negative commercials. The side
They really
effects of this
are.
medicine.
Yeah. Holy
The
crap.
positive. They should actually list the positive side effects. By the way, you may experience better sleep. Yeah, you're gonna be really drowsy. But one of the positive side effects you just described is the advisor getting better at what they do about rendering advice because they get to be fully present. Because at the end of the meeting, the conversation, they didn't forget half of what just left there.
That's right.
They don't have a scenario where they can't read their own handwriting.
That's right.
There's all sorts of interesting things. I always talk about that as it relates to podcasts. Like one of the things, a little side benefits you're going to realize is you're going to get better
That's right.
at your pitch, if you will, at
Mhm.
your presenting information, because inevitably you're going to have some repeat lines that you use frequently. You're going to walk through concepts multiple times.
Yep.
And you're going to find yourself refining and becoming more articulate and becoming more convincing, if you will, to be able to like present information. It just happens over time. The more reps beget better quality stuff. And it stands to reason that the same thing would be true if if every meeting you have, you're presented with, here's what happened in that meeting.
That's right.
It's pretty good stuff. I love that
Pretty
idea.
good stuff. Yeah. You said something else earlier that I want to come back to. So let's go back to Bob, who's this new associate wealth advisor or junior advisor. One of the things that our software doesn't have is inherent bias. Now, there are some issues with bias in ChatGPT and things like that, right? We understand that.
Sure.
But when you're using something like Zocks, it's not there. So Bob could have, let's say his parents got a divorce when he was 7, right? Yeah. And so all of a sudden, the people who are sitting across from the primary advisor are starting to talk about divorce. That could trigger, I'm a therapist here, that could trigger Bob. He's not listening fully anymore because now he's replaying all of those crappy tapes that are in his head, right? About his parents' divorce and was it his fault? And oh my God, AI doesn't have that. And I jokingly say AI doesn't ever get sick. AI doesn't take a sick day. But it also doesn't have those sorts of crappy filters that all of us have on every single solitary interaction we have. And the other thing, and I really want your audience to hear this because what you just said about podcasting, I believe it is one of the things that can help an advisor become way more professional because it's exactly what you just said. And I'm going to parrot this back. When you're behind the microphone and you're doing that Roth conversion pitch, like we started the show off talking about, right? And you've practiced it because before you get on a show, you should be practicing. Mike, I went through every single solitary question you were going to ask me. I already knew what my talking points were. I practiced them because I'm a professional, right? I'm not only a professional podcaster, I'm a professional influencer, right? But at the same time, advisors need to realize that they're doing the same thing. So when they have the opportunity to practice and they're talking to an estate planning attorney about estate planning, that's just another practice. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
We need to be, as professionals, leaning way more into the fact that we need to practice way more. And when you can start getting feedback on your meeting, which is something that's real close, brother, with the system that we have, to be able to say, you talked 72% of the time, that needs to be 40% of the time. And now all of a sudden, this tool can be just an unbelievable opportunity for you to just be not just a better advisor, but a better human.
I love that. Love it. AI is going to help us be better humans. Kind of the way you teed up the conversation. It's great. We're still flowing. This is good. It's funny. I was, I jokingly say this. I may have told you this in our prep call about, one of the reasons why I do a prep call, right, is for conversational chemistry. I always jokingly say, how much work is this guest going to be? Every once in a while, you get the opportunity to have the guest where you're like, oh, we're just flowing. I think this could be a 2-hour episode if we're not careful. But no, it is really true though. The leveraging these tools to get better and reviewing your work to get better is so important. We've all done it. I always tell people, like, you should watch the episode of the podcast. If you're a guest, you should go back and watch the show that you were just on. I know it seems like a lot of work, especially in the beginning though. Like, watch yourself, listen to yourself, look for your tendencies. What are your little, like, oh, I say a lot of ums and ahs. Now, most of the time people are picking those out now with editing. But they're there. Do you use, every word? We've had people on the show who can't get through a sentence without a, right. And that's that could be in your meeting notes too, by the way. I'm sure Zocks picks up that type of stuff. Like, by the way, just so you know, financial advisor. So let's get into that.
Yeah.
Walk me through a little bit of some of those. So we've talked about one really core use case,
Mhm.
which is obviously a summary, sending out or a templatized email where
Mhm.
you can then obviously you can review it and say, okay, what went well. What other types of feedback or important information is flowing back to the advisor as a result of using Zocks in their meetings?
And I haven't posted about this yet, and I don't know when this episode's going to go live, but I will probably have talked about this socially. But
Mm,
I love this. Great, closing more business. That's freaking awesome, right? I mean,
yeah.
we're in this. You need to make money. I totally get it, right? But one of the testimonials that we had gotten was about an advisor who doesn't hear incredibly well,
Mm,
and when you learn how to listen and you practice engaged listening, which is something I've been teaching for a long time, there are lean in moments. And you know this because you do this for a living and you're listening to me right now. There are lean in moments. Well, he didn't lean in at the right time, and his client's spouse got quiet because she was talking about a health issue. He didn't actually hear it because she got really, really quiet, but Zocks did. So when he got the transcript, there was this whole section about like alert, alert, alert,
yeah.
because she was experiencing major health issues. He didn't even hear it, dude.
Interesting.
And now all of the sudden, he has all of this much needed information that he would have flippin' missed, man. Right? When I say it helps you become a better human, or AI can make you more human, especially when it comes to client meetings, those are the sorts of things that it is going to pick up and detect things that you're not. Because again, it doesn't have all of the distractions and all of the stupid stuff. And I used to say this all the time as a empathetic human being, you have no idea what just happened before you started the phone call,
Mm,
right? You don't. I don't. I have no idea if your dog just puked on the floor. I don't know if you got a phone call from the school. And
right.
so, and I'm experiencing the same sort of stuff, I've got the same sort of baggage, bro.
Yeah.
Zocks has no baggage. It's no baggage. It's going to listen with the purest form of listening. And man, I just think that's amazing.
It is really cool. It's funny. It's somewhat related to what you were describing before about lack of bias, right? Lack of
Mhm.
implied bias about like I was making this joke the other day. So I live in an affluent community, golf course community. So lots of people have nice cars in the
Mm.
neighborhood. Uh, we all have our taste in cars.
Yeah.
Some of us have different tastes than others, I guess.
Mhm.
Uh, so one man's that is awesome is another man's what the hell. So there's a guy who drives a Lambo, down the street,
Wow. Okay.
and it's a nice look. It's a newer one, looks great and so forth. But we're walking my dog, and he comes around the corner, and he's revving the engine every time, like vroom, vroom, all the stuff that dudes with Lambos do, right? And I come home to my wife, and we're talking about it. I saw the Lambo guy, and I go, I just don't like that car. You know what I mean? Like, it's a certain. I start having like my bias coming out. Like,
Mhm.
I have not met this human being. I don't. He could be like
Yeah.
a saint, right? But in my mind, I've got
Yeah.
picture of Lambo guy, which
Mhm.
is dramatically different than my picture of Ferrari guy, because there's a Ferrari that I see all the time too. And when I hear it coming, I'm like, "Oh, that sounds like a
Oh, yeah.
Stradivarius violin coming." So immediately, because I just love the
Yeah.
sound of the engine,
Mhm.
right? And so it's such a funny I'm like, I am making these things, and it's like but when I was thinking about what we're talking about, like, number 1, a piece of technology is not gonna go like, "Oh,
Ugh,
Lambo guy,
Lambo guy.
this type of dude, gold chain, yada, yada." He's just gonna be like, "Oh, he drives a Lamborghini. It was his dream car.
Mhm.
He bought his fancy car."
That's right.
Other guy, Ferrari. Uh, the other thing it can do, and I'd love to get your insights on this because you're really diving deep on AI, and it could be outside of Zox as well. But I've seen something, code switching, right? So we hear that
Mhm.
in linguistics, right? So
Yes.
certain people in our society may, on their daily lives, live in one type of environment of people
Mhm.
who talk a certain way and interact a certain way, and then they go to a professional environment, and they're able to kind of switch codes. It's the same language, it's just presented different and all that type of stuff. So it's called code switching. And we all do it to some degree. Some have to
Yeah,
do it more significantly. Well, if you're in a meeting as an advisor, like not all your clients are exactly the same. Some younger, some older.
that's right.
Some drive Ferraris, some drive Lambos, some drive, I don't
Mhm.
know, Mustangs. I don't what you get my point. Like there's a lot of differences in there. And you do have to be able to swap in between. And using technology can help you again be more human and
Yeah.
make those adjustments.
Well, and you just triggered this, and I've actually talked about this before, but I will from here on out. Is one of the other things. So you saw Lambo guy, you saw Ferrari guy, and you had presuppositions.
Yeah.
Well, you've got Bob sitting in your a meeting, your associate wealth advisor. They're going to have those presuppositions too with the physical appearance.
Hmm.
Zocks has it's not looking at what you're wearing. It's not looking at your makeup. It's not looking at your hair. It's not looking at do you have skin conditions. It doesn't know if you rolled in a wheelchair or if you walked in a walker. It doesn't know that stuff. So it's looking at the essence
Yeah.
of the conversation and feeding that back to you so that you can make appropriate decisions. We are at the beginning, bro. This So when I first started talking about AI, it was about 18 months ago. And so I was speaking at ProudMouth or for ProudMouth at a conference, and I asked about AI. And I said, how many of you are using AI? And maybe 10% of the room. And
Yeah.
I asked them, and they're like, oh, we're using GPT or whatever. I was like, okay, that's fine. I just spoke at MDRT Edge, which it's $1 million roundtables for like the biggest insurance producers in the United States. And I was on one of the stages. And I asked the same question, 90% of the hands went up. And so we're just talking about unbelievable adoption of this level of technology. And it's just in its infancy.
Right.
I mean, one of the things that I was told when I first started here is, Matt, we know that there's like 20 things you're going to want the software to do. You can put it in this like suggestion box because we'll try to get to it maybe because everybody's got ideas, right? And they have a very specific product roadmap. This place is organized like you wouldn't freaking believe. It's engineers, right? But we're just at the beginning. Oh. And one of the things that I want your audience to understand is, so I use GPT. I've used GPT since it was public, right? So I don't know how many years that is. I have a lot vested into that, right? So I will probably never change my personal AI provider. Right. You need to get on this wagon. You need to find a piece of software, whether it's Zocks or not, that integrates with the technology, your existing tech stack, and you like the UI UX, right? Everything is too inexpensive right now. I cannot believe how little they charge for Zocks. That was an eye-opening moment for me. It is going to get more expensive. It's going to get more robust. It's going to be able to do new stuff for you. Yep. But man, you better get on this train because here's the deal. If you're not, you're going to lose business. You're going to lose clients because this isn't the future. This is the today.
It is.
And you as an advisor have to get on board.
A great point. One of the things I always say to advisors when we talk about any new technology, whether it was back in 2011 when I was out there talking about why advisors need to be using social media, right? I was out traveling all those same conferences you were describing, right? And by the way, when I was first doing that, this is 2011. I'm walking around. I've got my iPhone, and most advisors were using Blackberries, right? And then within a year, I saw people converting to iPhones quickly, right? Your clients are using this technology, right? And so when I used to use the analogy when it came to social media, some advisors would be like, I don't know if I want to get on LinkedIn and all this other type of stuff. And I'm like, let me ask you something. If there was a party near you and you knew every one of your high value clients was going to be at that party.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, so were some of your competing financial advisors from the area were also going to be at that party. Would you stay home? Or would you clear your calendar and make sure you got to that party? And the same is true here. I guarantee you, if you ask that same question, how many of you to your clients are using ChatGPT and other things regularly in your life? The answer is a lot, right?
A lot.
And so people are getting their productivity is skyrocketing when they want to do something. They will have questions about like, why did it take you so long to get back to me? Like, why couldn't you move quicker, right? That's going to be an expectation. Faster movement. Broader thinking is going to be like things that your human brain didn't think of because you've never experienced. Having some sort of model that has a wider large
Mhm.
language model experience to float ideas, right? Those things are coming. And then, of course, productivity tools like Zocks and so forth
Mhm.
are here to do it. Awesome stuff.
Hmm.
I dig it. Trying to think of bonus question. I did have a bonus
Ooh.
question. I
Okay.
got it. um, what do you think most advisors are missing right now? Actually, this is the first bonus question, I guess. What do you think most advisors are missing right now as it relates to their technology? I think most advisors, as you mentioned, are starting to experiment with
Mhm.
stuff. I think many of them are quickly realizing they need a note-taking app like Zocks, and like this is just gonna, geez, make my life a lot easier.
Mhm.
Where do you think that like, there's a kind of a gap that they're missing?
Well, I think that the biggest revolution besides something like an AI assistant, which is what Zocks
Yeah.
is true integration. And so I think that's what's always been missing. And in fact, many moons ago, I was at a conference. I don't even remember what conference it was, but I was hanging out with these two guys, and they're tech consultants. That's their whole
Yeah.
job, and their whole job is to try to find ways to get your tech, to talk to each other.
Mhm.
And by the way, AI is doing that, right? And
Yeah.
so you've got Zocks in the middle of Redtail, e-money, your trading platform, all of that sort of stuff, and it allows in real time to pull all of this information and then make sense of it and deliver it to you as an advisor. Now, I mean, it's only going to get better, and and again, like I said, it's in its infancy of being able to
Yeah.
do that. But that is the missing piece of tech. That is the other big missing piece of tech is what you know. I mean, I call it advanced client segmentation. I'm sure we're going to come up with a better name at Zocks. But the overall idea is being able to dive into your book of business and find opportunities.
Mhm.
That to me, when you can do that efficiently and effectively, asking the right questions to your data,
Yeah.
that's going to change every single solitary advisor's life.
It's really interesting. I had a similar an experience to exactly what you were just describing there that kind of was like eye-opening. Like you, ChatGPT is my
Mhm.
go-to, the one I use most, I guess is what I say. I use Claude as well, but I'm in GPT, I think 90% of the time when I'm using stuff. Uh, Gemini now is baked in. So we use Google Suite for all of our stuff. So it's baked in now, turned on. So at one point in time, I'm like, I wonder if what Gemini can do with email summarization, but also finding out some information, like dig through my email, because I've got, like everybody else, tens of thousands of emails I've sent and received. So I asked it a couple of questions, like, you go through emails of people that I have talked to in the past about this and that. And it was really cool. I'm like, oh my gosh, that was like within a minute. I suddenly had actionable follow-ups to make. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is
Yeah.
crazy. Right. And like that's what's happening, right? For it, this stuff is here and at your fingertips. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like what you said, a few minutes ago. Hey, it's here. You got to start doing it because everyone else is going to be doing it, and you like
Yeah, you're going to get
it's
left
almost.
behind.
I'm trying to think about the most ridiculous analogy to use. It'd be like trying to like do business today and not have email, or not. Well, I've never learned how to use a spreadsheet. Like what?
Yeah,
Like how have you never like? Oh, you're still trying to do everything longhand. That's
right.
very interesting. It's one way to go.
It's a
Very
terrible
slow
way to go.
comparative. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also,
uh,
Mike, I think this is really important too. It's not cute anymore
yeah.
like it used to be 15 years ago,
Yeah.
right? When it
Yeah.
was okay for you not to have email, or oh, I can't even
Yeah.
turn a computer on. Nope.
Yeah.
Now that you're a
Yeah.
neophyte at that point, you're gonna be a dinosaur. You're gonna go extinct,
Yeah.
and we are a slow moving industry,
Yeah.
right? The adoption of this technology shows that we are way more flexible.
Yeah.
We are way more adaptable than I think we've been led to believe, even in our own minds in financial services. Yeah. Again,
Well,
yeah.
you don't have to look very far back. 6 years ago, this global event forced every
Yeah.
financial advisor in America,
Zoom.
for the most part,
Yeah.
to suddenly using Zoom and
Yep.
Google Meet and
Yeah.
Teams and whatever platform you use for your business. But like that wasn't a thing. And it instantly became a thing and everybody adjusted
Mhm.
to doing that thing, right? That's going to be true here too.
Yeah.
So here's my real bonus question. I was
Okay.
looking along at my notes and I said bonus question, and I said bonus question too early. So now I want to get to the real bonus question. Double bonus, people,
All
for
right.
if you're
Double
still
bonus. All
here.
right.
Double bonus. Here we go. Uh, so there's two areas that I've been hearing for years. I'm sure you have as well, uh, in our space that most firms are wrestling with. One is recruiting young advisors, right?
Mhm.
A lot of firms are trying to get high quality young people into their and show them that this is a vibrant career for them.
Mhm.
And the other is organic growth, right? There's some very troubling statistics that show like 75% of all growth is market driven growth in the space. Like advisors are
Yeah.
just not bringing on new clients and new assets, right? Net new actual stuff from, right? So, how do you see the adoption of AI tools like Zocks and
Mhm.
others helping firms kind of drive these areas? So, you've got a great seat and great vantage
Yeah.
point on this.
Well, so we'll start with the young talent coming in. First off, most advisors who are looking for a junior think that that junior is going to behave in the way that they did when they got into the industry, which is you're hammering the phones, 12 hours a day, every day, 100 dials, whatever, right? And that's a load of crap. What made you a great advisor is not what's going to make your new junior a great advisor. You have to fundamentally change, which means that you have to be deeply involved in social media. You have to understand what content creation, thought leadership, and influence really is. And if
Yeah.
you don't show those tendencies, you're not going to be attracting the best talent. You also have to have the best tech stack. If you can't do 90% of what you do on your phone, right, which is where millennials specifically and Gen Z have grown up, you're
Yep.
obsolete, dude. If you're still using, a cathode ray tube freaking computer, right, and they walk in and they see that stuff, if there isn't massive levels of integration and
Yeah.
convenience, you're gone. So that's really what they need to pay attention to with the juniors. Um, but here's what I firmly believe because of the technological advances that are happening in financial services. I think the organic growth component, I think what we're going to get back to is events and webinars and
Yeah.
workshops, right? And so the prospecting events. So I'm not just talking about, wine events, which you have to do that, right? I mean, you have to do at least one client-centered event per quarter. If they want to bring your friend, they can. Don't make it mandatory. That just sounds like you're a schmuck. I don't like that. Just, it's okay if they're going to bring somebody if it's a good event and if they love you. Keep that in
Yeah.
mind. And then number two, prospecting events, like, the educational workshops,
Yeah.
the seminars. That industry is going to double, maybe even triple, I believe, in the next 18 to 24 months, because that's how we're going to be getting people's attention. Because 6 years ago, we all came inside. People want human connection
Yep.
again, even more. There's the male loneliness epidemic, which we do an entire podcast on.
Yeah.
And it's not just a male loneliness epidemic. It is people feeling lonely and they want to feel connected with their fellow humans. You, Mike, as the advisor, you do that for me, bro. I'm loyal to you forever.
I love it. That is a fantastic way to close out the episode. That was really perfect. Awesome stuff. So, Zocks.io is the website.
Yeah, /Matt GPT. So I want people to be able to go. Yeah, so they gave me my own landing page. But I'd love for them to go Zocks.io /Matt GPT would be great.
I love it. We'll make sure we get that linked up in the show notes. This is fantastic stuff, sir. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for listening to and or watching this episode of the Modern Financial Advisor podcast. It's always fantastic to have you with us. Huge props to my man, Matt Halloran. The bearded wonder finally made his appearance on the Modern Financial Advisor podcast. I can't believe it finally happened. So excited. Hopefully this is not the last time, and I don't suspect it will be, that we have Matt on the show. Okay. That's all I have for you today. Please do make sure you subscribe to the Modern Financial Advisor podcast if you haven't done so already. We're on all the platforms you like to listen to and watch stuff on. And let me see, what else? Oh yeah, be nice to each other. We'll see you next time on